Bishop M. Homami et al. Doing business as Persian Grill. OTA case number 180119998. Today's date is Wednesday, December 15th, 2021, and the time is 1:13 p.m. This hearing is being convened in Sacramento, California. Today's hearing is being heard by a panel of 3 administrative law judges. My name is Shereen Ridenauer, and I'm the lead judge. Judges Josh Aldrich and Mike Lee are the members of this tax appeal panel. All 3 judges will meet after this hearing and produce a written decision as equal participants. Although the lead judge conducts the hearing, any judge on this panel may ask questions or otherwise participate to ensure that we have all the information to decide this appeal. For the record, will the parties please state their names and who they represent, starting with the representatives for CDTFA.
Hi, my name is Courtney Daniels. I'm here for the department with Christopher Brooks and Jason Parker.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Homami, please.
My name is Homami. I'm active president for Persian Grill.
Thank you. This is Judge Ridenauer. Thank you. As discussed and agreed upon by the parties at the pre-hearing conference on November 16th, 2021, and as stated in my minutes and orders dated November 18th, 2021, there are 2 issues on appeal. They are whether appellant has established that a reduction to the amount of disallowed claimed exempt sales to the United States government is warranted, and whether appellant has established that a reduction to the amount of unreported taxable sales is warranted. As for exhibits, each party's exhibits are listed in the exhibit log, which was attached to the minutes and orders, as well as provided in an exhibit binder, which was emailed to the parties after the pre-hearing conference. Appellant submitted exhibits 1 through 11, and CDTFA submitted exhibits A through D. During the pre-hearing conference, CDTFA raised no objections to appellant's exhibits. Appellant's exhibits 8 and 9 consist of medical records, which are personal information. Therefore, we order them sealed pursuant to California Code of Regulations Title 18, Sections 30213 Subdivision A10 and 30430 Subdivision B. Appellant raised an objection to CDTFA's Exhibit D. CDTFA's Exhibit D is a revised audit that CDTFA performed in the pendency of this appeal. Appellant raised an objection to Exhibit D because the appellant disagrees with the revised measure of tax proposed to be assessed in Exhibit D. As we discussed during the pre-hearing conference, appellant's objection and disagreements relate to the merits of the revised audit, which is at issue and appeal. An appellant will have the opportunity to make arguments regarding the audit during this hearing. Therefore, we concluded that we overruled appellant's objection based on Exhibit D being relevant. Therefore, pursuant to my minutes and orders, appellant's exhibits 1 through 11 were admitted into evidence, with exhibits 8 and 9 ordered sealed, and CDTFA's exhibits A through D were entered into evidence. Mr. Homami indicated that he'll be testifying as such today, as such that he will be sworn in before his presentation. There are no other witnesses today. As a reminder to the parties, during a pre-hearing conference, we decided that Mr. Homami will have 45 minutes to make his presentation, followed by CDTFA having 15 minutes to make its presentation. Then Mr. Homami will have 5 minutes to provide closing remarks, should he choose to. Does anyone have any questions before we move on to the presentations? Mr. Homami?
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
No.
No. CDTFA?
No.
Ms. Daniels? Okay, thank you. This is Judge Ridenauer. We're ready to proceed with Mr. Homami's presentation. However, first I need to place you under oath so that we can consider your statements as testimony, and you will remain under oath until the close of this hearing. Can you please raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
This is Judge Ridenauer. Thank you. When you're ready, Mr. Homami, please begin your presentation.
That is the 45 minutes?
Yes.
I can start actually from the beginning how I can actually get to this position right now. That is the person actually inspired me to actually go to open the restaurant. It wasn't any person actually. It was the dean of the DNI Middle Eastern department. He told me actually that you can open your restaurant and then we can send our serviceman and woman over there to actually practice their languages and learn the culture. Also, they asked me to actually do the choreography, the Persian writing.
Mr. Homami, can I interrupt you real quick? Can you put the mic closer to you, please?
Okay, that was the name of the person was Mr. Mahmoud Tabatabai. He was the dean of the Middle Eastern department over there. And he did not want me to mention his name in the beginning. Actually, when he started, he said he didn't want the people think they get some benefit out of this, for example, the agreement. He told me you can establish a restaurant and then as an instrumentalist.
As a, pardon me, as a what?
Instrumentalist.
Can you move the...
Instrument to the Persian, I think that help the learning for the men and women in the military.
I'm going to ask you again, Mr. Homami. I understand I had the same difficulties. Can you put the mic like extremely close to your mouth, please?
Okay, this is good.
That's much better. Thank you so much, sir.
And then, he said that it's about 600 students, actually they are learning the Farsi language over there. We can send them periodically to your restaurant to actually have Persian cuisine, and also your staff can actually communicate with them about their conversation, how they order, for example, and also learn the cuisine, and also the writing and the choreography. And from the day one, he recommended sergeant actually come over there and join our staff. The sergeant, that was the rank was MLI, they call it the chief military instructor. And he actually came on board for the day one. He wanted to work from 4:30 to 9:30 in my restaurant. He was actually a high-paying military person, but he didn't need the job, or he didn't have any skill of cooking, or any, for example, any restaurant, for example, experience. And I thought that he was the one they sent it over as a, for example, the security for the military people. They come over there, they don't want it actually there's something actually they have done to be harmful to them. And he was actually undercover. He came from day one. And he told me that if I asked him about getting the contract with the military, and he told me if you are inside the military, if you come actually open your restaurant inside the military installation, then you have to have a very strict agreement with the government. But when you are outside the premises, that is a simple agreement. Is going to be enough, for example, for you to do the business. And that is why I actually procrastinated to go get the agreement from them. And I thought that it's going to be just one side of that agreement, because they are not actually obligated to do anything. This is the only me. I have to, for example, give them the service and give them the food and just not charging the tax. That was it. And then that is why I actually procrastinated and didn't go actually to get it. Actually 2-3 times I tried to do that, to get the agreement. But getting to the military installation, it was very difficult. Anytime I would go there, I ask them, they say, what do you want to do? I say, I wanted to talk to, for example, that is the public relation. I wanted to get the agreement. They say, okay, you have to actually send a letter or something, or email, then we can actually get your appointment or whatever. That's why it's just fall back, and then it took 9 years after that for, I was doing this. I was doing, actually, I didn't charge them the tax for the military people who came over there, and then they gave me their IDs. They say this is a military person, and I didn't charge them the tax. And for 9 years, actually, that how I actually opened business. I got refinance my home, about $213,000, and pull out from my home, and then I put it in this restaurant. And this was actually a still today I'm paying every month $1,000 for the things actually I lost in the business. And Mr. Rodman was the person actually came over there as a coordinator with his military and our staff, and he was working in my establishment from 4:30 to 5:30 every day. He started the operation 2005 to 2006 and continued the business until 2014. And no one actually raised the red flag for me to say, for example, you are doing it wrong. You should have, for example, the agreement or a piece of paper that says, for example, that you are not charging the tax to military people. What I did, I thought that is a patriotic thing to do, and I was doing it. I was proud to do that. And every day we work about my wife and I, both without pay, all these years. The evidence of this, you can take a look at our tax return to see we didn't have to get any benefit out of this restaurant. We just actually put our money in there and created a job for 9 years. And then after that, we actually lost it. On March 7, 2012, my wife actually got in a major accident, and they airlifted to Santa Clara Hospital, and she actually got very bad injury, and he got disabled from that one, and he couldn't help me at the restaurant at that time, from 2012. And then I have to do everything alone. And then the things actually fall back. I didn't have time. I have to actually take him back and forth to the hospital, and that's why I have to actually hire someone else to come and help in the restaurant. And I couldn't do it actually. I was doing it for free, and then I have to pay the people to actually come and help me. And then we are actually falling back on the rent, on the expenses and everything, as everything got worse. And we fall behind, and we were under pressure from the landlord, from here and there, and from the suppliers, and we couldn't pay it. That's why we actually filed bankruptcy. And the bank, actually the bankruptcy discharge is there actually as an exhibit. We actually put it in there. And we actually kept the restaurant at that time. And we actually thought maybe we are able to sell it to someone, actually get some money. And then we get lucky to sell it. But on actually November 30th, that is, we ran out of options. We couldn't sell it, and no one actually come forward to buy it. And that is why actually we closed the restaurant at November 30th, 2014. And we closed the restaurant at that time. And then after that, Board of Equalization actually sent us after that, I don't know what it was, they sent us a letter for the audit. And I told them, this restaurant is closed. I didn't know. Actually, that's the closed restaurant. The business actually went out of business is still subject to audit. I thought that is, we are actually done. In 9 years, when I was doing this kind of practices, and I was doing it the same, and there is 9 years too, and no one actually tell me, for example, you are doing it wrong. And finally, at this stage, they tell me actually give us some information, whatever you have. When I wanted to actually make a deal with the landlord, I told them I wanted to actually leave everything I have, all the equipment, all the computer, I'm sorry, computer and network and everything I have over there, and I put it over there, and then you can to give it to someone else to come and new tenant and use this thing. That was about $15,000 worth of actually the network I had in the restaurant. And finally they find someone, and they said if you put your network intact and don't actually dismantle it, they can come and start using it for in the day one. You can actually do it. We can actually forgive, for example, the rent, or the person actually come in, they can pay your back rent. And I accepted them. And from that time, I started actually cleaning off all those computers. I didn't have, because from the tax board they were saying, I kept my information on laptop. I never had laptop in my premises. I had 2 computers. It was one of them had a MakerD, that was a software actually doing the business for restaurant, and another one the back office. And I start cleaning off all of those things, and delete all the files for the Persian Grill. I didn't want actually all the information from the customers to actually for the customer security. I delete all of them. I didn't know actually that later on I'm going to be audited. I deleted, and then I deliver everything actually to landlord. I give the key and all the equipment intact. It was there. And when I received the letter from the auditors, they said they wanted to actually some information. I went back to my own restaurant and asked them if I can take a look at my back office. And I restored some of the files, actually just my cash register report. I got the cash register report from the restored from the deleted file. And then those cash register reports are raw information. It does have all the errors, all the duplicates, and everything in it. And I just handed over to tax agency and for them actually to take a look at it. And finally they send me a bill and say you have to actually charge the customers that you claim that was in military use. You are not supposed to give them tax-free. You have to actually charge them tax. I said I didn't charge them tax. I didn't collect the tax. They say you have to pay. And then I'm not in that position actually I am on my fixed income. I take Social Security. And my wife had a small business. Actually, that was just a hair salon. She was actually making a few, my tax return shows actually how much she made. We didn't have that much money actually to pay. And they still aren't paying, for example, for $1,000 a month. Still today is 2021. Still every month I'm paying $1,000 for the restaurant. For the loan actually I get it from I tried to actually get a loan from a small business. They didn't give me. They denied me because I didn't have a good credit. And these are, they find, for example, some discrepancies in my actually filing. I am not a perfect person, and the people actually working in the kitchen, in the restaurant, for example, the server, those are not the expert. For example, without error, they are making lots of errors in that one. I can explain how the error actually made. The service member, when they came over there, for example, they are coming in the group, we were taking their order. They are not paying in the first place. They have to sit down and eat. And all the things actually are done. And then after that, they actually come to the payment. And then those people, when they come over there, for example, 8 people come in the restaurant. There was some problem with the Mater D. I had an old version of Mater D software. That was, it had problem with splitting the table. If, for example, the person wanted to actually pay separate from the total bill, that was problem with the splitting the table, and it did have problem with the gift card. These 2 problems was exist from the day one. And anytime 8 people come, for example, to have dinner, at the end, they were saying, okay, we want to split the ticket. And the server didn't know how to split. They closed this ticket as a cash, and they tried to open the new table for every individual, and they take the ticket to the kitchen. They don't let the ticket go to the kitchen because they got the food. And at the end of the day, when they wanted to reconcile their account, they were bringing those tables. They closed it as a cash, but they didn't get a cash. But they closed it as a cash, and then they gave us all those tickets. Actually, they didn't go to the kitchen and say, okay, we were actually reconcile those things. We actually kept all of those things in the binders every day. And those binders, unfortunately, I destroyed all of them. I don't have it. I don't have those things to represent it. I am not a dishonest person. I served as a public servant in the county of Conway for 15 years. And that is what I am. I'm not a dishonest person. The thing I'm telling you, this is the right thing. Correct. I'm saying it that is the truth. It's not lie. And that is not a deed. And the thing actually the tax agency did, they take my cash register report and they put it, I don't know, they convert it to Excel or whatever, and they just add it up, and they say, okay, this is going to be your final amount, but this amount, these are all errors in there. All the errors in there, all the duplicates in there. And they claim last time they actually find the duplicate. There is no way you can find the duplicate. They actually, that is going to be on my benefit if they find the duplicate. But I'm saying they can't find it because the table for 8 and then return it actually converted to table for 4 tables as a 1 person for each, for 8, 1 person. That is how they can find the duplicate. These are the duplicates I'm talking about. The table for 8 first, they close it in the cash, and they put it every individual in another table. The time stamp and the sequence number is different. There is no single parameter in these files that is going to be, actually you can find it as a, for example, similarity to say these are duplicates. These are not. I'm sorry, I made actually checklist for myself. I'm looking at it one by one. I wanted to see what it is. The only mistake I had, actually my mistake was I didn't pursue to get the piece of paper actually as an agreement. I didn't get it, and this is the piece of paper. I used the tax category actually exists in the file. I used that tax category. And if that piece of paper, you assume, for example, you have that paper, you would have actually granted my file. And just the missing that paper, and I couldn't. And Mr. Tabatabai told me after I reached him when he was alive, I told him, he said, if you are taking me to the Sacramento, I can come and testify for you. But I told him that he was actually recommended me to go get the agreement. But that was my fault, I didn't do it. But the other thing actually, all the things I told about Mr. Tabatabai, he's supposed to come and to testify, but unfortunately he passed away and I don't have anything. There is nothing I can present, for example, as a evidence, as a paper or whatever, because I destroyed it. And I just want it because I don't want it. I have a cancer, and my wife has a cancer also. And our days are numbered, you know. And then I don't want to actually put burden on my kids, for example, to get carry out all of this actually tax liability and all of those things. I didn't collect the tax. I didn't cheat, you know. Some people actually, they get the tax and they say, I didn't get it, but I didn't. And this paper shows. That is all my cash register report. It shows who I'm getting the tax, who I didn't get it. And that is, it shows I didn't actually collect the tax. That is why I just wanted, as a, for the fairness of actually that said, to be fair, I ask you to actually grant my request to accept my tax filing, and these are the things actually they have done. They have actually, I'm not arguing about what the tax agency actually did that. They are doing their job. They can't actually, when I don't have a paper, they have to do it, something like that. Because I didn't have any other supporting document. And they were asking about the cash. For example, I had put lots of cash because I had in my account, when I get a loan for my mortgage, they said if you put it in actual direct deposit in your account, a direct deposit there, you have a 0.25% discount. That is why I was paying all my mortgages every month from the account, actually the only account I had for my business. That is why I put in my own cash. My son actually paying every month $1,000 helping me, giving me loan for paying my mortgages. And those are all inside that. And they said there was some cash actually deposited in your account. Those cash, they consider actually cash from the restaurant, but it wasn't for restaurant. There was the amount of actually my car crash, actually they paid by AAA, I put it in that account. I got a loan from On Deck, about $8,000, I put it in that account. Those are all they consider this amount actually accumulated as a restaurant income, but it wasn't. These are, I'm not a perfect person, and everyone makes a mistake. And this is the mistake. These are I just wanted you guys actually just consider all of these things for me, and just relieve me. I am under pressure from 2014 since now, when I got this letter, and still I'm under pressure. And I didn't bring my wife. My wife is on the chemotherapy every day. And then he couldn't actually handle this kind of stress. That's why I didn't bring her over here. And this is what I wanted to do. And I'm asking for the interest of fairness and equity. Just grant me whatever I have. I don't have anything else to give you. I don't have anything because I just destroyed everything because I thought, I didn't know. It took so long. Right now, they are talking about that is 2021. And from 2014, 2015 to now, that's about 6 years too. And that time I was this time I was under pressure. I don't know. That is in your hand. And I am public servant like you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Homami. Thank you very much. Ms. Daniels, do you have any questions for Mr. Homami?
No, we do not.
Okay. Thank you. This is Judge Ridenour. Judge Aldrich, do you have any questions?
Hey, this is Judge Aldrich. Yeah, I have a couple questions for Mr. Homami. So when you're referring to the missing piece of paper, are you saying that that's some sort of contract between DLI and your restaurant, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm referring to that one because I didn't pursue on that one. It's just I procrastinated that one from the day one. I thought that I'm doing the right thing. I thought I'm doing the right thing. I was actually proud to do it because I thought that it's a patriotic thing to do. We are actually giving all these services to the military people, and they are not actually paying, for example, taxes for their food actually they are using.
And is that in reference to off-site food services or on-site?
No, off-site. I wasn't inside. I was outside. My restaurant was actually close to the base, actually to the base entry. I was in the street. And that is why it was a little bit relief me because from the beginning I thought they said a strict contract with the military. If you are inside the military, then you have to have all of those things about the security, especially after 9/11, getting to military installations was very hard. I don't know if you experienced that one. I did several times. Even I was delivering food to their installation sometimes, for example, for their events. It was very hard to get in and get out.
Thank you. And you had made a reference to an ID. Were you talking about specifically a military ID or some sort of USAA credit card?
At that time, USAA was the one I thought that is that's the military credit card. That's
Okay.
the government credit card. But right now they are actually open to everyone. But at that time, I thought that those are the military, that's the government credit card.
And I guess, how did you come to that belief? Or why did you think that was a military credit card?
They showed me their ID also, because they were beautiful, they come over there.
Okay, so just an association.
Yeah.
And then I was just hoping to go through the timeline. So restaurant closes when?
But that is November 30th.
Okay. And at what point do you go back to access the hard drives?
When they actually, they told me actually that send me the letter.
So after you got the audit report or the audit engagement letter?
When they sent me a letter, they said you are actually subject to audit. And I said I don't have anything. I don't have nothing actually present. They insisted you have to find something. Then I went actually to research to see. I went back to the restaurant and see if they don't delete all the file or they didn't actually formatted the file. Maybe the deleted item still isn't there. And it was a few things actually I could get out of that. I just recovered, restored from that they let me do that.
Okay. And so you mentioned something about paper copies that you would keep. So is that like a sales ticket, or how is the record keeping in general at the restaurant?
I was actually that's Mike. I was keeping the credit card, the slips, and also I kept the things. Actually, they were when they closed the ticket, for example, for 8 people or 4 people, for example, and they closed it as a cash because at the end of the day they didn't have any cash to give me, and then they say, okay, this cash is this ticket. Actually, we didn't send it to kitchen to make a food. And we actually cross-referenced those things, and we saw those are the true things. Then we put those things in the binder. And at the end of the day, actually we reconciled with the server. Actually was to reconcile his account and give him whatever tip actually he's supposed to give him, and then close his account. And these are, you can't actually do it in MaterD, in that software. It doesn't let you do it. When you close the ticket, you can't delete it, you can't modify it, nothing. That is just, is going to go in your record.
Okay, so you said at some point those binders were destroyed?
Yes.
Okay, when did that happen?
The time actually I wanted to give it to them, give it to the landlord.
So when when you were vacating the lease, you wanted to leave?
I just didn't take it anywhere. I just put it take it to Watsonville, a place, a shredding office, and there was boxes of, for example, all the credit card and all these binders and everything actually. There was boxes of information, and I didn't want to keep those things. And unknowingly, actually, I did that. Unknowingly, then I didn't know that they were. Actually, after 9 years, come after me, because I was doing it the same thing. I was doing it, for example, from 2005, 2006. All these years, they didn't actually raise the flag, and I thought that was right. It's okay.
And so you had mentioned that with respect to the cash register reports, that there were some errors.
Yeah,
and that it may be difficult for CDTFA to see what the errors are.
I explained it to them. I said that is splitting the ticket in this way. Actually, I explained it. I don't know if I explained it right or not. That's 8 people come to the restaurant.
I understand that part, but could you point out in the exhibits an example of that error, that kind of error?
The exhibit is, I didn't make an exhibit. I just told them that is, for example, if you find, for example, one table for 8, and then after that it says that one closes as a cash, and then there are one, it's not after that. This is not a sequence. For example, if you close the 8-person ticket, it comes, for example, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 down there. It's not going to be after that. They close that ticket, for example, and they created one. In the meantime, the other customers actually order the food also. That is what the sequence is not going to be after that, for example.
So I understand that you're saying that the error could be out of sequence of the cash register report, but I'm asking, could you refer to a specific example in the cash register report? So we have in the exhibit log, it looks like there's cash register report for October 1st, 2012 through December 31st, 2012. Is there an example you can give in that attachment? I believe it's 51 pages.
Yeah, I can do that. I can find one, for example, that's is closed as a cash, and then
Mr. Homami, do you want us to take a recess so you can look for it?
What do you mean?
Would you like us to take a recess so you can look for it? An example?
Yeah, I can do that.
You can take a 5-minute recess. It'll
Okay.
give you time.
I
Yes.
think that's just a procedure, and then I can take it, find it.
Okay. So we're going off the record and taking a 5-minute recess. Thank you. Mr. Homami, it's been 5 minutes.
Yes, that's I find one.
You found it, okay.
I think that's gonna be.
Okay, hold on, I need to go back. We're back on the record. Please proceed answering Judge Aldrich's question.
That is 10/27/2012.
Okay, just 1 second. Could you say the page number of the exhibit? So
Page, it doesn't have page. Mine doesn't have page.
that's okay. So the date then?
That is the sequence number is gonna be 126266.
126266.
Yes.
So if anyone else is looking at the exhibit binder, that should be exhibit 4, page 7 of 51. Okay.
Yeah, this is the cash actually closed at $102.91. Then later they opened, for example, for 5 people. It depends, actually, you have to find it, that is the individual or maybe 2 people next to this.
Okay, so
Next, it's not the next record. It's gonna be down in the list. And they might actually add, for example, some other stuff, they order something else, and they actually pay their own, for example, the tip and everything. It's not gonna add up the same when you split it.
So, just to, there's lots of different point of sale systems, but it looks like in this cash register report, there's a number associated with the entry, a date, and then the next item is a time. It looks like it's in military time or 24-hour time. So would it be fair to say that if there was some sort of division, it would come after 9/08/29?
Yes. That's after that. They all come after this record. It doesn't say, for example, which one it is, but that is it. They created another sequence, another time stamp. Actually, it depends when it's going to end up. For example, after this ticket closed, they might actually have lots of customers actually in between. They come and they pay and they go, and then after that, you're going to create another record for that.
Okay.
These are very hard to actually do, but this was happened in my restaurant. It's always when there was, for example, splitting the ticket, always they had problem. And they were closing it as a cash because they wanted to get rid of it because very time consuming actually for the customer. They got frustrated. They would get angry, for example, when it took so long. And that is why they close it as a cash and go and create, for example, individual ticket and ask them, for example, what did you order? They have to go one by one again and take the ticket to the kitchen. And they keep the ticket to the kitchen and attach it to their, for example, that file for reconciliation at the end of the day. And that was it.
Thank you, I think I understand. That's all the questions I had for Mr. Homami at the moment. I'm going to refer it back to Judge Reitner.
This is Judge Ryder, thank you very much. Judge Lee, did you have any questions?
This is Judge Lee. I do have a follow-up question on that. The point that, so looking at the ID you mentioned, the 126266, it looks like the next entry is for the following day. So the entry for 126266, the entry date is October 27, 2012. And that looks to be the last entry of the day. I guess my question is, wouldn't the duplicate happen on the same day at a later time?
It's, you're saying that's the ticket is 1027?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
1027?
Yeah, so for the example that you pointed out,
Yeah.
the one for 10, 27, 2012.
Yeah, after that is the end of it. I think maybe that they close it, for example, at the end.
Okay.
They might close it, for example, they might close it after they give those tickets. They split it. This is the one actually when zero is over here. That's I identify that one as the one. It depends. For example, when the server closes, you know.
Okay.
The server actually left it, maybe left that thing open until the end and close it at that time.
I see.
Maybe actually the split the ticket before that.
I see. Okay, thank you. No further questions for me.
This is Judge Reitner, thank you. Mr. Homami, I have a couple questions for you. Okay, so just so I can clarify, CDTFA approached you for an audit, and you indicated you did not have any documentation because they were left at your...
I couldn't hear you.
Okay. CDTFA contacted you to conduct an audit, and you originally indicated you were unable to get source documentation because it was left at the premise of your restaurant. Is that correct?
No, I don't think so. They said they came over there.
Uh-huh.
They came over there. I haven't seen them in
Right.
9 years. In 9 years, I didn't see them.
No, when they approached you to an audit, you originally said you did not have source documentation, but then you went back to the premises to find your laptops.
Yeah, when they told me, I went back. Actually, when they asked me, for example, give me some information, I say I don't have it, and say, then I went to find out if there is any files over there. It's not, is still in the deleted file, then I can recover it. And fortunately, I found it, but actually that's this cash list report. That was in my document. It wasn't in my, if it was in my, the Maker D network, those all wiped out because they wanted actually to refresh for their businesses. They wiped the name and everything, and all things actually got wiped out. But this was the one actually I got it from the back office. It was in my document as a PDF file, and I could recover those things, fortunately, and I gave it back to them. Because at the first time I told them I don't have anything.
So, thank you, Mr. Judge Reitner. So my follow-up question is, you provided that during the audit, and then on appeal, you have provided additional quarterly reports. However, they differ. The latter ones include additional sales.
Additional sales, actually, I remember that one. There was a template, because there are discrepancies, you're talking about the discrepancies for example, the tax return, I put it for the federal, and the tax actually I filed it. That is the discrepancy you're talking about?
The discrepancy is that the latter provided quarterly reports show additional sales that were not provided on the originals, and so I'm just trying to understand how you would have two different sales reports.
No, that was one template I created. For example, I had a monthly template. I always put the monthly figures in on that template and put it in my. I actually added to my QuickBook. The QuickBook I was introducing, that one was 13 months instead of 12 months. 1 month that template was included. I was supposed to actually change the date of that template to, for example, the future month. That is why I didn't actually forgot to do that. That was a 13 month. And the figures are actually more but it didn't actually affect the outcome. I was in lost position, you know. And then that was a different timing, you know. When I filed for example, for the state board, it was one time, and for tax return for my federal, it was a different time. And that is why I just didn't cross-check that one.
I see. Okay.
That was the problem on that one. I find out that there was a template that 13 months instead of 12 months.
Thank you. And so your maitre d' information was on the computer at the restaurant. So where was the QuickBooks file?
It was in my back office. Those are deleted also. And I never had laptop. They were actually referring that I had a laptop, but I didn't. But they were actually trying to show, for example, I could have had a laptop and taken it home and over here, but I didn't have it.
So was it on the hard drive?
It was on a hard drive, yes. There are just 2 network computers I had in the restaurant, and those are all my information was there. And after this many years, when they didn't actually raise the flag and all of those things, I said that everything was okay. That's why I deleted all of this thing, and then I just end up in this position. I'm telling the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Homami. This is Judge Reiner. I have some additional questions. So on your sales summaries, you have a column that says number of customers. Is that number of customers at the table for that particular check?
No, at the table.
At the table, okay, thank you. This is Judge Reiner. So I've looked at your sales summaries, and some check sequences have zero number under the number of customers.
Those zero number of customers?
Yeah, so let me check sequence number 126879. I'm trying to find where it is.
What's the sequence number?
126879. Hold on.
Eight. 879.
So page 23 of Exhibit 51 is where they would be located.
Yeah, mine doesn't have
Oh, okay.
page number.
I'm sorry.
126879.
So January 4th, 2013, for date-wise?
And January.
Yes.
126879.
So as you can see,
779. Okay.
that one, as well as the one thereafter, 126880, they both have zero. And so if you could please clarify as to why.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, thank you.
That is the thing.
Okay,
I brought it.
thank you.
It's supposed to be the customer number, you know.
It's supposed to be, pardon me?
It's supposed to be customer number.
Okay, thank you.
Is that in the software actually what it does, or the server data? I have no idea.
Thank you. One additional question. You indicate you didn't collect sales tax reimbursement. And if you need additional time at recess, I'm more than happy to provide it. Could you please point to an example of a transaction where you didn't collect sales? Like, I've looked at the numbers, and sometimes the amounts, it appears that you collected like tip or as, et cetera. But if you could point to a specific transaction where it indicates you didn't collect tax and how it adds up efficiently to show that.
Tax, actually, when you actually compare these two, the total and the payment, for example, I think maybe that one, you see that is the differences between the total and the payment is going to be the amount of, for example, tip or whatever they put in there.
Okay. Thank you very much. I just wanted to read that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Homami. This is Judge Reitner. When you're ready, Ms. Daniels, will you please begin your presentation?
Thank you. Appellants are a husband and wife partnership that operated a restaurant called the Persian Grill in Monterey, California, near the Naval Postgraduate Academy. Appellants sold hot prepared food items to the general public, including individuals who were U.S. military personnel, attending and or involved with the language department at the Naval Postgraduate Academy. Upon being audited by the department in 2015, the appellants alleged that they did not charge sales tax for a large majority of their sales because appellants believed that certain customers were exempt from paying sales tax due to their employment with the U.S. military. The department disallowed the claimed non-taxable sales to the U.S. government employees and issued notices of determination for the period of October 1st, 2012 through March 31st, 2015 for approximately $27,000. And you can see that at Exhibit C. In preparing this case, the department reviewed the audit work papers and determined that adjustments were necessary. Those adjustments reduced the tax measure by almost $36,000 and thus in turn reduced the owed tax amount to $20,803. And you can see that at the revised audit work papers at Exhibit D. Appellants have provided the following arguments in support of their appeal. First, appellants contend that they should not be liable because they did not collect sales tax due to their mistaken belief that military customer sales were non-taxable sales to the United States government. Second, appellants contend that the audit is somehow deficient and is based on sales data that was not provided by appellants. Third, appellants request a reduction to the liability amount due to an inability to pay. I will address each argument in turn. As to appellants' first argument, appellants have presented a few reasons for why they believed that tax exemption was appropriate. First, appellants allege that certain payments made with USAA bank credit cards denote government transactions. Second, appellants assert that Brett Rodman, the chief master language instructor for the Naval Postgraduate Academy, was acting as an agent for the United States government when he purchased food from appellant's business. Finally, appellants appear to argue that their business was an integral part of the Naval Postgraduate Academy's language program, and thus sales under this program should be exempt from tax. Personal property sales to the United States government or its agencies are exempt from sales tax under Revenue and Tax Code Section 6381, Subdivision A. Tax applies to sales to persons in the armed services of the United States, notwithstanding the circumstance that the merchandise may be billed through an Army or Air Force exchange service, Navy exchange, Coast Guard exchange, or a similar organization. And that's California Code of Regulations Title 18, Section 1614, Subdivision B. Therefore, for a sale to be tax exempt, the purchaser must be acting as an agent for the United States government or its agencies. A sale to a government employee alone does not suffice. Any seller claiming a transaction as exempt under Tax Code Section 6381 must obtain from the purchaser and retain a government purchase order or documents demonstrating direct payment by the United States to support their claim. And that's California Code of Regulation Title 18, 1614, Subdivision G. Here, there's no dispute that appellants sold hot prepared food items directly to members of the United States Armed Services. However, members of the armed services are not considered the United States or an agency of the United States without documentation that identifies the United States government as the purchaser. Appellants have not provided any evidence of an executed contract with the United States government. Instead, appellants provided evidence of sales where the buyer used a USAA credit or debit card. The decision and recommendation at Exhibit A correctly identified that USAA is a private financial institution that markets to military personnel, but is not in fact affiliated with the U.S. government. Although the department understands the basis for appellant's confusion, this mistake is not a basis for tax exemption. To the extent that appellants contend that Mr. Rodman was acting as an agent of the United States when purchasing food for members of the armed forces that were enrolled in the Naval Postgraduate Academy, appellants have not provided any documents demonstrating direct payment by the United States for any of these audited sales. The documents provided consist of letters from appellant's business to the Naval Postgraduate Academy detailing the menu options and prices that appellants offer. You can see appellants exhibits 1A and 1B. These do not suffice as purchase orders or proof of payment from the United States government as required under Section 1614, Subdivision G. As a result, appellant sales to members of the public who happen to be in the military do not qualify for exemption. Lastly, to the extent that appellants argue that their business was a part of the language program at the Naval Postgraduate Academy, this argument also fails because it is not supported by any documentation from the United States government. While the department presumes that appellants provided valuable insight to military personnel, appellants have failed to meet the requirements for tax exemption. Again, appellants have not provided any documentation that their services were contracted by or paid for by the United States government. Although the department is sympathetic to appellant's situation, a mistaken belief does not relieve appellants from liability. Taxpayers are charged with knowledge of the law, and ignorance of the law is not a defense to the liability, nor is it reasonable cause for relief of a failure to file penalty. See McFarland, the Department of Alcohol and Beverages Control, 1958-51, Cal 2D 84 at page 90. As to appellants' concerns regarding the accuracy of the data used in the department's revised audit, appellants today have raised some specific transactions that caused concern. The audit utilized items that were provided to the department by appellants, including their tax returns and Excel spreadsheets summarizing monthly sales. The department imported the information provided into its audit software. As previously addressed, the department did identify some duplicate and missing transactions and adjusted the audit to rectify the duplications, resulting in a reduction in the tax liability amount. See the revised audit work papers at Exhibit B. Page 1 provides a summary of the deductions. The deductions included check amounts that were duplicate, as well as some transactions that appear to be check number duplicates. Finally, appellants have requested relief from their tax liability due to an inability to pay the assessment. Unfortunately, appellants have not provided a legal basis that would support granting relief. The department is sympathetic to their mistaken belief in the reasoning that resulted in the failure to collect sales tax from military personnel purchasers. However, there's unfortunately no basis to grant appellants' request because a mistake of the law is not grounds for reduction in liability. Pursuant to the foregoing, the department asked the panel to affirm the decision recommendation with the exception of the adjustments made to the taxable measure in the amount of $35,778 and thus affirm appellant's tax liability in the amount of $20,803 plus penalties and interest. Thank you.
This is Judge Reitner. Thank you. Judge Aldrich, do you have any questions?
This is Judge Aldrich. No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Reitner, Judge Lee, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Ms. Daniels, I do have one question. So the restaurant closed on November 30th, 2014, which I don't, does CDTFA contest that?
I don't believe so.
So then my question is, when for fourth quarter of 14, when you applied the percentage of error to the lack of sales for that quarter, did you prorate it to did you only, for the amount of days up to 11/30 as opposed for the full quarter?
This is Jason Parker. So we use the actual reported amounts by the taxpayer. So anything that would have been prorated would have, there was already a reduction based on the amounts that they reported for that period. So in Exhibit D, let me pull this up real quick. So Exhibit D, page 9, shows the calculation of the percentage of error. So we use the amounts reported versus the amounts recorded for fourth quarter 2012 through third quarter 2014. And we came up with the percentage difference for those periods. And so we applied that to the reported amount. So the reported amount for fourth quarter of 14 was less than half of any other quarter. So technically it is prorated.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify for the record. Mr. Homami, if you would like, you may make a brief closing statement in response to CDTFA's argument or to further address any of the questions asked by the panel, but it is not required. Would you like to make closing remarks?
Everything they say, they are right, because I was the one actually, I didn't have any documentation. That is just, I didn't have documentation. That's why all things actually happened because of that. And I just wanted to accept my explanation of why it happened. That's why it happened. Because for 9 years I did this, and then no one actually told me, for example, you're doing it wrong, you have to have this and that. And then when I closed the restaurant, there is no way. And this audit, I think, is going to be for correction. For example, if someone make a mistake, they wanted to correct. I don't have anything to correct right now. I lost everything. Everything actually I've done, and at least I created actually 9 years work for the community, you know. And I was trying to be successful, but I failed. When someone falls, from halfway actually give him the hand to pick him up, not pushing it down. And this thing, it seems to me, they are pushing me down more. I just wanted to help, because I was doing something I was thinking that's the right thing to do. And I did it.
Thank you, Mr.
And it was late actually to getting corrected. And I didn't collect the tax. That has not benefited me. And you can check my tax returns for all these years to see if I got benefit out of it. I can actually authorize to check all my tax returns.
Thank you, Mr. Homami.
Okay.
Before, I just want to check with my co-panelists to make sure they have any questions for either party. Judge Aldred, do you have any questions?
No further questions, thank you.
Thank you. Is Judge Ryder, Judge Lee, do you have any questions for either party?
This is Judge Lee, no further questions.
Okay. This is Judge Ryder, and I do not have any additional questions either. So I want to thank everyone for participating today. At this point, the case is now submitted and the record is closed. The judges will meet and decide this case later on, and we will issue a written opinion of our decision within 100 days of today. Today's hearing and appeal of the partnership of M. Homami et al., doing business as Persian Grill, is now adjourned. This concludes the hearing for today. Hearings will resume tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. And Merry Christmas.